Morning, everyone. I want to extend condolences to those who lost loved ones in Tuesday's tragic Amtrak derailment. Our thoughts and prayers are with these families, the injured, and all those who've been affected by this horrible accident. Our committees are following the investigation closely and will await the final results. Let me also take a moment to recognize National Police Week. The job of a police officer is not easy. It's also very dangerous, as a report from the FBI this week confirmed. There are more than 900,000 sworn law enforcement officers in our country. We're surrounded by some of the finest of these officers right here at the Capitol. So on behalf of the whole House, I want to thank all of our police officers and our families for their service and their daily sacrifices. Here in the House, we continue to make the American people's priorities our priorities, starting with jobs and the economy. We've passed a real entitlement reform, a balanced budget plan, and good bills to make a difference for working families. And I'm pleased to hear that the Senate has found a path forward to deal with Trade Promotion Authority. More trade means more jobs for the American people. And when the Senate completes its work on this important legislation, the House will follow suit. Republicans are going to do our part. Ultimately, however, success is going to require the Democrats putting aside politics and doing what's best for our country. On national security, today the President is going to huddle with Middle East leaders. And we're reminded of the growing threats posed by Iran and by ISIS terrorists. In the House, we're addressing these challenges head-on. This week, the House passed reforms to improve our foreign intelligence capabilities that helps keep Americans safe. And today, we'll act to ensure that Congress and the people will have an opportunity to review any potential agreement with Iran. And tomorrow, we'll take up a strong defense bill to ensure that our troops have the tools and the support they need to carry out their missions. This shouldn't be a tough vote, but incredibly, after helping to pass this bill through committee by a vote of 60-2, Democrat leaders have pulled their support. So let me be clear. This vote is about whether you support our men and women in uniform. The bill authorizes all the funding the President requested for our national defense. It improves pay and benefits for our troops and their families. It calls for greater protection of our troops from sexual assault. And it includes other common sense measures that members of both parties have supported for years. So Democrats are now saying they support our troops before they oppose them. You'll have to ask them, but I think it's downright shameful that they're even contemplating turning their backs on Americans' troops. So I would urge all Democrats, especially those on the Armed Services Committee, who voted for this bill in committee, to give our troops the support they deserve as they put their lives on the line to keep America safe.
Mr. Speaker, can Trade Promotion Authority with the Customs Bill, currency manipulation provisions, trade adjustment assistance, can that package pass the House?
Well, we'll see how the Senate, what the Senate sends us, and then we'll make decisions about how we'll consider it in the House. But we will consider all of those issues in the House.
Could be broken up, in other words, to grease it.
We'll see.
But there are certainly Republicans who support some kind of measure combating currency manipulation. Would you put something like that on the floor for a vote?
Listen, we've had this discussion about currency between countries and continents for the 25 years that I've been here. And to think that Congress can legislate what the currency valuations are between countries is almost laughable. I think the Department of Treasury, under the 4 presidents I've served with, have done a very good job of working with our allies around the world when some of these currencies get, in some people's minds, out of line. I think that's a much better approach than trying to legislate what should or shouldn't happen with regard to currency valuations.
Sir, do you think it's possible for the House to act on these trade issues before the recess?
I don't know what the timing for Senate action is or how long it'll take the Senate, but it's doubtful that this will happen before the end of next week.
What kind of offsets are you giving to the Democrats for highway funding?
There's a conversation going on between Democrats and Republicans, the House and the Senate, over how to deal with the highway funding authorizations and for what period of time, but no decisions have been made.
Do you prefer a measure that extends highway funding to the end of the year, and would you be okay with something that just...
I would prefer that we had a permanent 5-year or longer highway funding program in place.
But that's not going to happen next week. I think you'd concede.
It's probably not going to happen next week.
Would you be okay with just extending spending authority? What is your preference?
My preference is whatever we can get agreement on amongst all the parties involved, which, as you're well aware, is always difficult. Yes,
Mr. Speaker, is it likely, given the time constraints that the Senate has in dealing with the whole FISA issue, that Congress will have to pass a short-term extension of current authority?
The House has acted to make sure that the administration has the tools to help keep Americans safe. It's time for the Senate to act. Yes, sir.
Does House passage of the USA Freedom Act do increase trust in the U.S. from our allies?
Does it what?
How does the passage of the act by the House increase trust in the United States from our allies?
Listen, we've got a strong relationship with our allies when it comes to intelligence matters. And while there may be political squabbles at the top, if you look down below, our relationships on the intelligence side around the world are as strong as ever. Yes.
There's been some criticism beginning from Democrats that Amtrak was not well funded enough and that Republicans have historically...
Are you really going to ask such a stupid question? Listen, you know, they started this yesterday. It's all about funding. It's all about funding. Well, obviously, it's not about funding. The train was going twice the speed limit. Adequate funds were there. No money's been cut from rail safety. And the House passed a bill earlier this spring to reauthorize Amtrak and authorize a lot of these programs. And it's hard for me to imagine that people take the bait on some of the nonsense that gets spewed around here. Thanks.